Hi everyone, this is Sam with the Wine News in 5. Before I get to global news, a bit of site news. We published 2 harvest reports this week. The first was Gavin Quinney's detailed report on the 2024 harvest in Bordeaux, which, as I mentioned last week, was the smallest since 1999. Gavin breaks down why that is, where vine pull schemes are concentrated, and how the small crop plays into the current market. He includes a myriad of useful charts. The second harvest report is from our own Walter Speller and details Barolo's challenging 2024 vintage. He interviews 9 producers on their approach to the incredibly wet and fairly cool season. Both of these are must-reads for students of wine. We also continued our re-release of Vintner's Tales yesterday with an episode featuring Steve Daniel, who was, at the time, the buying director for Oddbins, a retail chain which was owned by Seagram. Jancis dives right in with pointed questions about the hypocrisy of having a passionate, underpaid, and idiosyncratic staff employed by a large multinational seeking to promote its own brands. Daniel, for his part, handles her questions with aplomb. On to the news. Today, I'll update you on Trump's tariff war and the responses from Canada, Mexico, and China, speculations on Constellation exiting the wine business, Austria's 2024 vintage, the first South African winery awarded Ecological Outcome Verification, and the Gérard Basset Foundation's new Laurent-Perrier Champagne Scholarships. First up, Trump's tariff war. The US tariff situation is so volatile that by the time I sent this to my editor last night, the info I typed earlier in the day was out of date. Hopefully, nothing has changed in the last few hours. On March 4th, Trump's promised tariffs of 25% on Canadian and Mexican imports went into effect, as well as the doubling of tariffs on Chinese goods to 20%. Canada immediately responded with identical customs duties on U.S. products. Canada's liquor control boards in Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Manitoba, Newfoundland, and Labrador began the process of pulling all U.S. products from their shelves and websites on March 4th. The British Columbia Liquor Distribution Branch said that they would reinstate their previous plan, which was paused when the Trump administration initially postponed tariffs, to remove all products produced in red American states, aka states that voted Republican in the 2024 election. Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, said she would wait to implement tariffs until she had spoken with Trump. China responded by levying 10 to 15% tariffs on various U.S. agricultural goods effective March 10th. Yesterday, March 6th, Trump suspended tariffs on Mexican and Canadian goods shipped under North America's Free Trade Agreement, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement, until April 2nd. This affects around half of goods from Mexico and 1/3 from Canada. In response, Canada said they would postpone a second round of retaliatory tariffs. They have not removed the first round, and this morning they announced a $5 billion program to help Canadian exporters reach new markets. Mexico has postponed issuing any retaliatory tariffs. Until now, Canada was the single most important export market for U.S. wines. A report published by the USDA on March 5th states in 2024, the United States exported $435 million worth of wine, $221 million worth of distilled spirits, and $41 million in beer to Canada, making it the United States' top alcohol export market. Trump has promised to impose tariffs on the EU on April 2nd, specifically tariffs that target agricultural goods. If these go into effect, it will be yet another blow for the U.S. wine industry, specifically to importers, distributors, and retailers. Weakening distributors and retailers weakens their ability to serve their domestic producers. In the end, nobody wins. On to speculations that Constellation will exit the wine business. To be clear, there are no quoted sources for this news. It seems to have been leaked by an anonymous source. But Wine Business published an article on March 4th detailing a potential sale of Constellation's wine business to Duckhorn, which would acquire their coastal brands and assets, and to Delicato, who would acquire their Central Valley assets. Constellation, Delicato, and Duckhorn have refused to comment. Constellation owns more than 100 wine brands and, according to Wine Business Analytics database, produces around 15 million cases of wine a year. If rumors of the sale are true, this would be one of the biggest and most disruptive sales in the last few years. And that's saying something. On to Austria's 2024 harvest, the smallest in 14 years. Hail, frost, summer heat, and torrential rains in 2024 resulted in the smallest harvest in Austria since 2010. The 1.87 million hectoliters of wine produced in 2024 is 22% below the 5-year average. Despite the tiny crop, the country still has ample wine stocks of 3.04 million hectoliters, which is around the same as last year. Next, ecological outcome verification for Hartenberg. On March 5th, I received news that Hartenberg Estate in South Africa had received ecological outcome verification and is only the second vineyard in the world after Mariah Vineyards in California to do so, which begs the question, what is ecological outcome verification? Apparently, it's a system of verification overseen by the Savory Institute, which is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to, quote, facilitate the large-scale regeneration of the world's grasslands and the livelihoods of their inhabitants through holistic management. The Institute has created a data collection protocol that measures aspects of biodiversity, water, soil health, and ecosystem function. They verify growers who meet the baseline that they've established for a given region. As an example, having living plant roots in soil is one of the most important requirements of any organization promoting regenerative farming. Bare soil is a big no-no, but clearly it's more difficult to have covered ground in arid eastern Washington than it is in verdant Willamette Valley. For ecological outcome verification, there is a baseline established for each region. If you meet or exceed the baseline of all monitored aspects, then you can be verified. The verification process does not require that you use specific practices, but rather that you achieve certain outcomes. This seems really cool, and I highly recommend that you go check it out. However, I also think that the multitude of certifications and/or verifications that are cropping up do make consumer comprehension more complicated. The Regenerative Viticulture Foundation has a handy list of all the regenerative certifications that are already in play with explanations of each, and I'm going to link that in the transcript of this newscast on our site. While I'm on the subject of regeneration, the Rise Climate and Wine Symposium, at which Jancis spoke last year, will be taking place April 29th to May 1st and from the 6th to the 8th of May at Charles Krug Winery in Napa, and is a wonderful way to connect with other sustainably minded producers if you can make it. If you can't make it, sessions will be recorded and posted for subsequent viewing. Finally, the Gérard Basset Foundation's Laurent-Perrier Champagne Scholarships. On March 4th, the Gérard Basset Foundation announced that they had partnered with Champagne Laurent-Perrier to offer 10 UK-based individuals the opportunity to take the Wine Scholar Guild Champagne Masters course, as well as participate in 2 days of master classes covering negotiation and sales. Applications are now open and will close on April 25th. You can find more details at GérardBassetFoundation.org or in the link in the transcript of this newscast. That's all for this episode of the Wine News. If you enjoy this newscast and you'd like to see it continue, please subscribe to jancisrobinson.com. And if you have breaking news in your area, please email me at news@jancisrobinson.com. Thanks.